Hey guys, welcome to another Bitesize Church. Now this is Creation Part 2. So what we're doing in this run of sessions is we're looking at the idea of the earth and the life that's in the earth and where it all came from. And what we're going to do today is we're going to have the two major parts of that argument right next to each other. So on the one side, we're going to hear the story of creation as told in Genesis 1 and 2, the chapters 1 and 2 of Genesis in the Bible, the story of God creating the world in 6 days. We're going to hear that told, and then directly next to that, we're going to hear the story of the Big Bang kind of idea, how the earth was formed and how it took millions of years, and the story of evolution and the idea behind that. We're going to have these two trains of thought about how the earth was formed and how life came into the earth. We're going to have those two trains of thought right next to one another, and then we're going to kind of be thinking about it a bit more. And the idea is that from our own perspective, we can see these two stories next to each other and we can genuinely begin to ask ourselves, so what do we think? Where do we go with it? Can we see any links between the two? Can we see how the two could work together, or are they completely separate? So we're going to begin by looking at the story of creation as told in Genesis chapters 1 and 2, the story of God creating the world in 6 days.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty. Darkness covered the deep waters, and the Spirit of God was hovered above the surface of the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness night. Evening passed, and morning came, marking the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a space between the waters, to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth." God called this the sky. Evening passed, and morning came, marking the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place, so dry ground may appear." God called the dry ground land, and the waters seas. God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land sprout with plants, trees, and trees that produce seeds that grow fruit." And God saw that it was good. Evening passed and morning came, marking the third day. Then God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. Let these lights in the sky shine down on the earth." God made two great lights, the sun and the moon. Then he painted the night sky with stars and saw that it was good. Evening passed and morning came, marking the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with birds of every kind." And God saw that it was good. Evening passed and morning came, marking the fifth day. Then God said, "Let the earth produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring of the same kind." God saw that it was good. On the same day, God said, "Let us make human beings in our image, to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals." So God created human beings in his own image, a male and a female. God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply. I have given you everything that has life." Then God looked over all he had made, and he saw that it was very good. Evening passed, and morning came, marking the sixth day. On the seventh day, God had finished his creation, so he rested from all his work. God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy.
Okay, so there is the story of creation as told in the Bible, Genesis chapter 1 and 2, the beginning of the Bible, starting with that story of God creating the world, the earth, and everything that's in it in 6 days. Now, you probably knew that story really well, you've probably heard it a lot, but it's good to get an idea of it and to get a real telling of it as we put it alongside the other story that we have of creation, the idea of the Big Bang. And we're going to hear about that now. This is from National Geographic. This is the story of the theory of the Big Bang and how the Earth was formed, but also then how life developed on the Earth. So this is another video about 3-4 minutes long. So we're going to watch this one now and have these two stories of creation right next to each other. So here is the theory of the Big Bang.
Earth, the only planet known to maintain life, a product of scientific phenomena and sheer chance. This blue speck in space holds the past, present, and future of our very existence. Approximately 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth formed from particles left over from the creation of our Sun. Gravity drew these particles together to form pebbles, which then formed boulders and eventually the Earth. At its heart is a solid inner core covered by a liquid outer core. Above this sits the mantle made of flowing silicate rocks and a rocky crust. This rocky mass is the third planet from the Sun, orbiting the star from an average distance of about 93 million miles. It's close enough to the Sun to be warm, unlike the cold gas giants, but not so close that its surface is exposed to extreme heat and solar radiation, as is the case with Mercury. Earth's unique position in the solar system allows it to house phenomena yet to be found anywhere else in the universe, particularly liquid surface water and life. According to one theory, much of Earth's water is as old as its rocks, both of which having formed during the Earth's earliest days. Because of Earth's unique distance from the Sun, the planet is able to contain water in all of its forms, liquid, ice, and gas, rather than have them permanently frozen or evaporated into space. But Earth is the only known place in the universe with liquid water on the surface, thereby having unique cascading effects on the planet. It hydrates the land, helping create nutrient-rich soil. It collects and pools to form oceans and freshwater systems. And it cycles upward to add moisture to Earth's protective atmosphere. And where there is liquid water, there is life. About 3.8 billion years ago in Earth's oceans, primitive life existed in the form of microbial organisms. They, and the ensuing billions of years, gave rise to a range of more advanced life forms that thrived in Earth's seas, lands, and skies. As the only world known to harbor life, Earth's biodiversity is expansive in nature. An estimated 1.5 million species of plants, animals, bacteria, fungi, and others have been cataloged, with potentially millions, if not billions more, yet to be discovered. Home to life and fueled by water, Earth houses a unique global ecosystem, as curious and as grand as the astronomical events that made them possible.
Okay, so there we go. You had the two stories right there next to each other. The one of the story of creation from the Bible and the other, the theory of the Big Bang and evolution. Now, what I love about both of those stories and both of those videos is they both tell of the wonder and the beauty of the earth in which we live. It's the one thing that really joins them together is that our world is extraordinary. Extraordinary in the fact that it's positioned just perfectly. It's not close enough to the sun so it just burns up and water just evaporates and life can't happen. But neither is it so far away from the sun that everything is freezing and frozen. It's in the perfect place for life to exist. And the setting settings are just right. The tilt of the earth is just right for night and for day. Everything is just so for life to exist. And both stories kind of celebrate that and point out that this earth, this planet, is the only planet on which life is particularly viable. It's the only planet where life can thrive. And whether you go along with the creation side of things from the Bible, or whether you go along with the theory of evolution and the Big Bang, you are joined together collectively in the notion that there is something particular about the earth, where wherever it came from, it is entirely unique. So there's beauty in the fact that actually both theories, both stories, both ideas of how the earth was formed are joined together in the uniqueness of the earth and the beauty of it. But we need to ask ourselves some questions. So just looking at those two different videos and those different ideas of how the earth was formed and so on, what do we think? We're going to get a little bit more into the kind of idea of creation and the creationism idea, the idea that the earth is only a few thousand years old, and kind of where that comes from and the arguments that they have. We're going to look more into the idea of the Big Bang and the idea that there's still this idea of they're not quite sure what started it. There's that idea that they know what happened almost immediately after the Big Bang occurred, but that notion of actually what created the beginning is still a question to be asked. But also the evidence of that, the evidence of the Earth being millions of years old, and the evidence for evolution. So we're going to look into those two aspects a bit more. But now that you've seen them side by side, what does it make you think? How does it make you feel? Where do you feel yourself being drawn? Can you see parallels between the two? Can you see God in both of them? Can God be both as the creator and the idea of it happening through a long period of time, the earth forming and life beginning? Can God be there in both? Do science and faith have to be entirely separate, or can they work together? Can both complement one another and actually tell the same story? If the story of creation in the Bible isn't how we think it happened, isn't actually the kind of black and white, this is how it happened, it didn't happen in 6 days, then what is that story all about? And what does it tell us about the Bible itself? What does it tell us about what's going on? The first part of the Bible, that first passage, if we don't think that that is actually how the earth was formed in 6 days and boom, everything's there, well, what is going on with that? And again, how does that make us feel about it? How does it make us feel and think about the story of the Bible as a whole? What we believe about creation and where the earth came from, how it was formed, and how life has come to thrive on the earth, well, it's a very important question for us to answer, because actually it will shape our faith. It will shape how we treat the earth. It will shape how we treat the rest of the Bible. It will shape a huge amount about our lives and our faith. And so it actually is quite an important question to answer. So that's what I wanted to do. What do you think is the right way forward for you? Where do you find yourself being drawn? Is it more to the creation side or more to the evolution side? More to the Big Bang and evolution side, I should say. And depending on where you find yourself landing, so what impact does that have on you and your faith? And can you find God in both? And if so, how and where? And if the story of creation in the Bible is something that you don't think is accurate, it didn't actually happen in 6 days and God rested on the seventh, then what does that mean for the way we need to read that story, but also the way we need to read different parts of the Bible? How does it impact that? And if we do think that it was the Big Bang, well, what does that mean for us in our faith as well? What does it mean in relation to where we as humans came from? See, that's one of the sticking points in the story in Genesis. We are the pinnacle of God's creation. He creates Adam and Eve. but from the story of evolution and the story of the Big Bang and the earth beginning and life developing, well, then we are part of an evolutionary story and process. So where is God in that? These are things just to get us thinking, just to get us really pondering what we actually think and where we feel ourselves being drawn and the impact it has on our life and on our faith. What we're going to do in the next one is we're going to get a little bit more about the behind the scenes kind of story of those people who call themselves creationists, who do believe that it was 6 days, who do believe that God created everything, who do believe that the earth is much younger than has been thought. We'll get a bit more about the idea of the Big Bang and the limitations of that as well, the questions about it, but also the story of evolution. But you know, the good things, the bad things, the doubts, all of those type of things. We're going to get deeper into it as we explore the idea of creation. As normal, there's going to be some questions that follow the end of this video, which is coming just now. So don't dash off as soon as I disappear. Wait for the screen to come up, look at the questions, have a think about them, and see where it takes you. Okay, we're going to be back again with Bitesize Creation Part 3, where we're going to get into this even more. So until we see each other again, look after each other, and I'll see you soon. Okay. Here come the questions.